right, so it is 4:04, and I will call to order the December meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners. And Kim, can you start us with a roll call, please?
Kathleen Mills.
Here.
Ellen Rodkey.
Here.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Here.
Okay, and we do have all four members here today, and we have a pretty robust agenda, so we'll go ahead and jump in with the consent calendar, which we've all had a chance to look at for a few days. So some service agreements, business reports, surplus, minutes from the last meeting, and that sort of thing. So do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, and a roll call vote, please, of all those in favor?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay. Motion is carried. And then we don't have any Section B this afternoon, public hearings and appearances, so we move to Section C, where we have a lot of things that need to get wrapped up by the end of the calendar year here. So first, yes.
Rebecca was finishing a meeting. And
Okay.
was trying to get out. Could we make a motion to move items C1 and C4 to the end of the agenda?
Sure? Yeah? Okay.
Do we need a motion for that?
I think so.
Okay. So if we'll postpone C1 and C4 to the end after C14.
Second.
Okay. And a roll call vote of all those in favor?
Kathleen Mills.
Oh, here comes Rebecca.
Ellen.
I could
Aye.
vote no. That would be dramatic.
It can
I
be
can withdraw
withdrawn.
my
We can withdraw it
motion.
if we want. Okay.
Oh, okay.
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 I'll withdraw my
Okay,
motion.
all right.
Am I reading sense first? Well, hello. Rebecca Swift, Operations Development Division Director. I'm here to recommend approval of a contract with Reed & Sons for Building and Trades Phase 1. Excited, we received 5 bids, and Reed & Sons gave us the most competitive bid, and we're able to move forward with the base bid and alternate 1. This project is all about improving accessibility and functionality of Building and Trades Park, and is really about improving the north and south connector trails, improving some of the ADA compliant ramping that is out there, as well as improving some of the features like the drinking water fountain and bike racks. It also includes the new 10-foot accessible center multi-use trail, updates to the parking lot, and additional erosion and grading control measures. I think I covered all the rest. Sorry, I'm just walking in, so I'm catching my breath too, but happy to answer any questions about this project.
Rebecca, I know there was a lot of community input in the neighborhood and everything, and I should know this, but I don't remember. Is anything different happening with the basketball court area?
Not at this time, although
Okay.
we have been talking about converting some of the basketball courts to have pickleball
Okay.
amenities. That was something that was of interest to the community, was adding in some more pickleball courts.
Okay. All right. Great. And improved accessibility is always a bonus. So any other questions for Rebecca about this contract? No?
I'll make a motion to approve a contract with Reed & Sons for Building Trades Park Phase 1 improvements.
Second.
And all those in favor, please say aye.
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, motion carried. Thank you, Rebecca, for rushing in. And then in C2, then Keto will tell us about the agreement with Building Associates for the Twin Lakes accessible door.
Good afternoon. Satoshi Kido from Sports Division. Staff recommend approval of contract with Building Associate to install new accessible door at Twin Lakes Recreation Center. To better serve Bloomington community, this contract will install new accessible doors and openers at Twin Lakes Recreation Center with ADA standards. A contract with Building Associate was originally approved by Board of Park Commissioners in October 2024 for Building Associate to install accessible doors at Frank Southern Ice Arena, Allison Jukebox, and the Banneker Center. The Twin Lake Recreation Center portion of the contract was left off at that time due to budget concerns. However, enough budget remains to complete this project from ARPA fund. The amount of this project will be $71,994, and again, the source is coming from ARPA 2024.
Questions for Keto about this?
These are the main doors into Twin Lakes, is that right?
That is correct.
And how do they operate that makes them handicap accessible? Are they, will
That'll
they
be the-
become sliding doors, or how does that work? If you know.
We requested the sliding door first. However, that was too expensive. So we're going for the push doors.
Push. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Keto? No? Okay.
It's great that we have the leftover ARPA funds for this. So I'll make a motion to approve a contract with Building Associates for new accessible doors at Twin Lakes Recreation Center.
Second?
Okay, and a roll call vote?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Thank you, Keto. And then in C3, Joanna Sparks will tell us about the agreement with BRCJ for surveying needs along the Beeline. You're
Stuck
not-
with me again?
Yes.
I'm going to be representing Joanna Sparks today. So again, Rebecca Swift, Operations Development Division Director. I'm here to approve recommendation of a contract, or I'm sorry, recommend a contract with Bledsoe Rigger Cooper James for topographical survey work and green stormwater infrastructure civil engineering services at Switchyard Park along the Beeline Trail just south of Grimes Bridge. So a little background, there's already an existing drainage ditch there that's highly erodible. It actually takes in all of the stormwater off of that nearby neighborhood and off of Grimes Bridge and all of that. And it's just not functioning to its full abilities. And so we need to hire a civil engineering company to help us survey the area and come up with some green infrastructure design plans, because we're really interested in adding some more green infrastructure to help manage stormwater in our parks. The amount is not to exceed $15,400 and is coming from Urban Green Space General Operations line.
Rebecca, are there drainage problems there currently? Like
Yes.
water pools or?
Correct.
Okay.
There's flooding versus instead of actually filtering, it's flooding and also causing excessive erosion because there isn't a substantial plant matter there to actually function.
Yeah.
Think of
Okay.
like
Drive past
riprap,
it.
trash, ditch.
Yeah.
So it can be improved and
Okay.
function as intended.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Rebecca?
How, like, if it's the area I'm thinking of, how, is that's our space, that's not like Public Works?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it is on park property, but it is kind of within that area between like the warehouse and Grimes there.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
But it
Okay.
is for sure on park property. We made sure to survey that too.
Okay, before you try to send it back to Public Works.
Yeah.
Are there other questions?
No.
I'll move to approve a contract with BRCJ for topographic survey work at Switchyard Park along the Beeline Trail South.
Second?
Okay, and a roll call vote of all those in favor?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you again.
Thank you. And staying up here. again-
Yes, for C4 is the agreement with Butler, Fairman, and Seaford for rail trail crossing improvements.
Thank you, and I appreciate you saying it first, because I say it differently a little bit every time. So again, Rebecca Swift's still here, in case I have to say it every time, forgive me, Operations and Development Division Director. I'm here to recommend a contract with Butler, Fairman, Seaford Civil Engineering for a similar services. We're looking for topographical surveys and design and plan development, as well as utility coordination for the trail crossing along Rogers Street. So you guys are probably very familiar with this kind of unsafe diagonal crossing. It has been a goal of ours to improve this crossing for safety and longevity of the trail function. And so fortunately, BFSC is also working with engineering on a similar project in that area about the road. So this is going to include, relining up the trail crossing to actually be a nice square right angle, adding in some additional potentially pedestrian safety aspects or amenities, and then widening the trail slightly. Now, we're not paving aspects of the rail trail there, but just improving, again, the sight lines and functionality of that trail crossing. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, that's definitely a place that's ripe for some improvement.
Yes.
Yeah,
It is.
And this is also ARPA funded.
okay.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I would agree. I've definitely run out and run back
Yeah.
at that section of the
Yeah.
trail before. So,
Okay.
okay. I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Butler, Fairman, and Seifert Civil Engineers for the Bloomington Rail Trail crossing at Rogers.
I second.
All right, and a roll call vote, those in favor?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Thank you. And then in C5, we have the agreement with HFI for HVAC and plumbing service needs. Amy.
Hi, Amy Lionbeck, Operations Coordinator. I'm here to recommend a service agreement with HFI for 2025, not to exceed $15,000. So that's for the entire year. And this is a bundle with several different areas in the Parks Department. So this is a preventative agreement that we can have set up so that if we have a need for HVAC in a short, turnaround time, we already have the approval to work with them. We are also getting approval with several other we are getting service agreements with competing vendors so that we can continue to be competitive, and each job will be bid individually as we go. This just kind of green lights the way to call them and get them on the scene as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and this is some streamlining instead of, in the
Yes.
past few years, we've had a lot of individual service contracts and different aspects
Yes, we're
of the Parks
trying
Department.
to
Yeah,
coalesce and not send you a billion
Yeah.
contracts. So
that
we'll-
seems like a good idea. Okay?
Does the HVAC that we would be responsible for, is that so Banneker,
Yeah,
Twin
facilities.
Lakes, Allison Jukebox, all of those?
Yes,
Okay.
Rose Hill office, the
Yep.
maintenance sheds and
Okay.
some building, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any
Questions?
questions about this?
I'll make a motion to approve a service agreement with HFI for is this 2025?
Yes.
2025.
I second.
Okay, and a roll call vote?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And then in C6, we have the agreement with Commercial Service for 2025 HVAC and plumbing service needs. Darren Eads.
Okay, Darren Eads, Sports Facility Coordinator. Not to be repeating what Amy said, but this is the commercial service portion of the agreements. We've just bundled it up. It's pretty much all parks areas can use this. It's a $15,000 service agreement, just as HFI is, and we'll just use them as needed throughout the year. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I'm just wondering, for the 15,000, did you look back at what we tend to spend on, or are you just estimating? Or?
Yeah, and we just kind of, and it's multiple facilities, would say, hey, I'll use 3,000. Somebody said, I may use 6, I may use 10,
Right.
so we just kind of, went that way.
Okay.
So then, I guess just to maybe educate the public and remind us again, so this is total. So once you start spending beyond $15,000 total, then those contracts come to
Then,
us.
yeah.
Okay, so.
And if it's something bigger as a contract, and these are really for unexpected,
Right.
hey, we had a light that went out, or we had a furnace that wouldn't come on this morning. If it's obviously somebody coming in and replacing a compressor, then we would get bids on that,
That makes sense.
Okay. Any other questions for Darren?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 service agreement with commercial service.
Second?
All right, and a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darren. Motion carried. And then we have our park permit application templates for 2025. Sean Marlar.
Good afternoon. Sean Marlar, Recreation Facilities General Manager. Staff recommends the approval of the updates to the noise permits for parks, hourly permit, People's Park permit rental application, or People's Park permit rental, application for the mobile stage, Switchyard Park pavilion rental form, special use permit application, and a new special use permit guide. This is an annual process. Every year, these permits are reviewed. The most common updates are to change the dates on the permits and to update, as you see later in the agenda, the price schedule change to include updates to the price schedule. In the background, there are the changes to each specific document. There's only one completely new document, that is the Park Special Use Permit Guide. That is a new document that's meant to make it easier for the public to understand the Park Special Use Permit requirements and the other permit requirements. And it does include an existing alcohol guidelines document, which will go away with the creation of this new one. It's just being folded, and like I said, this is a new document to make it easier, so when somebody has a question, it gives them a detailed answer, whereas in the past, I've spent a lot of time answering very minuscule, detail-oriented questions. I'll still have that, but this is going to answer a lot of the public's questions about the permits. So
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Any other questions for Sean about this permit?
So how different is this company with the previous company?
I'm sorry, could you say it again? I didn't quite
Yeah,
hear it.
because both companies, they do the city HVAC, right? The previous one.
Those were the previous topics. So those were the service agreements for HFI and for commercial services. They do similar services. Service agreements are for unexpected repairs. The topic I was discussing is for the permits that these are the public-facing permits that the city uses to rent a specific building or to get a park permit to hold a concert or event in the park, to use the mobile stage, to host an event at People's Park, et cetera.
Thank you.
Do we get requests to use the mobile stage at People's
Oh,
Park?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Those go to Crystal. This is actually a group of 3 people's responsibilities. It is Shelby, Crystal, and I. We each have multiple things here we are in charge of. So I'm representing all 3 of us on this one.
Okay.
Is question 38 about animals new to the special use permit?
So-
Because I know we've had a lot of conversations about animals in parks, I
Yes.
think, in the last year.
We have, and part of it is also, as we're updating the ordinances, we're trying to be more responsive to some of the issues that have cropped up in the past. So, for instance, in the Park Special Use Permit, there's a whole section of animals because it has come up, not so much for the same reasons, but because we have events where people want to bring educational animals
Sure.
on site. And in the past, I've always had to explain it to people. So now it's in writing, so they know exactly where to go and what it looks like. I'm still going to answer their questions, but it's at least more transparent what that process is now.
Yeah, that's great. I think the addition of a guide is also probably really helpful. Hopefully, proactively front load your customers with some information and be able to point them toward that instead of having to constantly answering questions.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I'll make a motion that we approve all of the new permit applications for 2025 and the new special use permit guide.
Second?
All right, and a roll call vote of those in favor?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
And in C8, I will confess I don't know how to pronounce, is it Fotizo?
Fotizo.
Fotizo, okay.
Darren Eads, Sports Facility Coordinator. This is a service agreement with Fotizo LLC, doing business as Fish Window here in Bloomington. We use Fish Window for gutter cleaning, window cleaning, just multiple services. This is an agreement, a bundled agreement again. We kind of brought 3 or 4 of the facilities together instead of bringing 3 or 4 to you. Not to exceed $8,600 in 2025.
And this is, again, just sort of
Yeah.
on an as-needed basis?
As needed, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any questions about C8?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 service agreement with Fotizo LLC.
Second.
And a roll call vote of those in favor?
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Israel Herrera, Jim Whitlatch.
Aye. Thank you.
Thanks, Darren. Motion is carried. And then next up, Clarence Boone will tell us about our new farmers market appointments.
Clarence Boone, Facility Program Coordinator. The Farmers Market Advisory Council, before I get into that, staff recommends the appointment of the following to the Farmers Market Advisory Council: Julia Fox for Customer Representative, Cashin Nair, Customer Representative, and John Norton, Farm Vendor. The Farmers Market Advisory Council consists of 11 members representing the market vendors, customers, and food and beverage artisans. The council acts in an advisory capacity to the Board of Park Commissioners and park staff on policy matters relating to the farmers market. And we did receive a total of 4 applications. The new prospective applicant qualifications: Julia Fox has shopped at the market virtually every week for more than 10 years and considers herself to be a locavore. She eats local produce grown in season and buys meat from local farmers. She credits her love for the BCFM to the caring assistance several Bloomington community farmers market vendors rendered to her husband during his long battle with cancer. And that genuine concern helped to endear her to our Bloomington community farmers market. Now, she has great familiarity with the market and has observed its operations firsthand, and we feel she'll make an excellent addition to the Farmers Market Advisory Council. Karshan Nair, as a student, wants to help make others' lives more enjoyable, and being a part of Farmers Market Advisory Committee would allow him to do so. Furthermore, since moving to the Bloomington area, he has fallen in love with the city. Previously, he served on the Youth Advisory Council for his local Illinois representative. In that position, he had to converse with the community members and develop ideas for legislation that would benefit their district. In that position, he learned the value of perspective and the context it can provide in any situation. And finally, John Norton has been a vendor at the Bloomington Community Farmers Market since 2022. He operates Blooming Shrooms and specializes in gourmet indoor-grown mushrooms. And prior to becoming a full-time farmer several years ago, he spent about 15 years in the tech industry in a variety of roles, for teaching at Dev Boot Camp in Chicago to mobile and web application developers, principal product owners, and business development consultants for several tech startups.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Clarence.
Thank you.
Some very experienced people, it sounds like, enthusiastic. So, any questions about these appointments?
So the 4th applicant, do we have any information about that person?
Yes, Nick Parsh is currently a farm vendor with the farmers market. With the timing of his application and some of the qualifications, we felt that there were other candidates that at this time would serve better in that capacity. We love to keep him in mind for the future, though.
So in this moment, there was a need just for 3 new members.
Right, and soon we will have need for a food and beverage artisan, but we would consult with the FMAC and then do a little bit more research and perhaps invite someone or request someone consider.
Can you also remind us, there's 11 representatives total, is it a certain number, like, is it 4 farm vendors, 4 food and beverage, 3 customer representatives, or like, how do those seats
That's
kind of
right.
break
It's,
down?
it's staggered. They're not all equally represented on there.
Okay. But is there like is there a specific, I guess, what is the breakdown? Is it for,
It would be 4 customer rep, 4
Four.
food and beverage, and 3 farmers.
3 farmers? Okay. Okay.
Karchin, is the pronunciation Karchin name?
Yes,
Is this person the only student?
but he's the only student. Yes.
And the term is for 2-3 years?
It would be for his position as customer service rep, it will be for 2 years.
I'll make a motion to approve the appointments of Julia Fox, Karsha Nair, and John Norton to the Farmers Market Advisory Council.
Second?
All right, and a roll call vote of those in favor?
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Israel Herrera, Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Clarence.
Thank you.
All right, and then in C10, we have the partnership agreement with M&N Supplements for the Twin Lakes Rec Center. Mark Sterner.
Yes, good afternoon. Mark Sterner, General Manager of the Twin Lakes Recreation Center. Today we have a new proposed partnership with Macros and Nutrition of Bloomington, that is the M&N. The Twin Lakes Recreation Center wishes to partner with Macros and Nutrition of Bloomington on sales of food and drink supplements. All items considered are packaged and/or bottled. Macros and Nutrition plans to transact sales through a self-service kiosk. The vendor is required to pay the department 35% of all profits. Steps were taken considering the details of the business arrangement to offer this concept to other supplemental retail stores here in Bloomington. The ones that we contacted and had the discussion with both declined. So I'd be happy to answer any questions in relationship to this new partnership.
So Mark, obviously we have like Cokes and, popcorn and things like that, other concessions, but do we have anything like this that's more of a nutrition drink that's available?
We do. We offer protein options,
Okay.
and we kind of keep it at that. This would be just, it would prevent us from selling it at the front desk because we also have concession sales at the front desk when concessions is not open, and we also have some vending options as well. So this will just give our member base an opportunity to, kind of expand on, what's available, in terms of nutrition.
Okay. Go ahead.
Could
Israel.
I ask you, because it says that the other 2 business companies or organizations, they decline?
The names of the businesses?
No, the reason why, they say any reason why they declined
They didn't. Well, I think a lot of it was General Nutrition has a store over on the west side. That was one that we contacted, and it's just in such close proximity. I think the other portion is that the others that we checked with are corporate, and that is a whole lineage of things that have to take place for that to be approved for them. Most of the people that we dealt with were the store managers, and they just felt like it was a no-go at that point.
And M&N is local?
I do
Yes.
have all 3 of them here.
Okay,
Yeah, they're like a security team, but
added bonus, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Is it, I'm just curious, how's the kiosk set up? Is it like, now when I walk through the airport, all those kiosks have it's just, it looks like a overhead projector, you set your stuff there and then it scans it for you and tells you how much you owe and all that. Is it that advanced, or is it, what's the?
these are new units. I actually got to see the unit before we've gotten through the partnership and have it installed. It's pretty state-of-the-art. It's cashless, of course. It scans the UPC on the bottle, if it's a bottle or a package, and it transacts from there. Use your card to make the payment.
Okay, and is there any responsibility on your staff's part to have to troubleshoot it if a customer's having an issue, one of the gym users is having an issue or
We
anything?
would be calling Nicholas
Okay.
with M&N to come over and take a look at that. As far as I know, you guys have operated with this system and you've not had any issues thus far. It's operating well. Yeah.
Oh, great.
So it was because this was a discussion or it was an offer from M&A?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
This opportunity about starting the partnership with Macros and Nutrition, is this something that came from an offer or is this something that was discussed to get nutrition?
Yeah, I got to know the three of them indirectly from not related to the recreation center, and we had these discussions. They have actually opened up similar concepts in another fitness facility here in the community, so I kind of got an opportunity to look at that and see how that works. Also got to look at some of the financials associated with that particular business and sales associated with this concept, so the conversation grew from there.
Okay,
Cool.
yeah. Any other questions? No samples? No. All right.
That's
Do you
great.
wanna
Yeah,
make a
I'll make a motion to approve the partnership agreement with Macros and Nutrition Supplements for Twin Lakes.
Second?
Okay, and a roll call vote of all those in favor?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, and then next up, Chris will tell us about the agreement with King Snake for the Frank Southern Center sound system repairs.
Hello, yes, I'm Chris Hamrick, the facility manager at the Ice Arena. We had to make a repair. It was approved as an emergency purchase through the controller's office. We went to turn our sound system on and it just didn't turn on. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the repair.
So was it more of a repair? It wasn't a replacement, it was just a repair?
They are going to replace like the control brain side of it, which that piece was, it's a whole stack, and that stack was installed by a company that's no longer in business and apparently is very outdated. So they're replacing that piece.
Yeah.
They're replacing that piece, and then they're going to keep the speakers and amplifiers and everything and just attach new wiring to it.
Okay. All right, any questions for Chris about sound system?
I guess, was this like, before an event, like like were y'all trying to like get it on,
Yeah, that was the idea. We didn't end up getting it actually ready for the event. But thanks to Crystal and Leslie, who I don't think are here today, they helped me out a ton and gave me a temporary solution, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Community events, folks. Get it done.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with King Snake for emergency sound system repairs.
Second?
All right, and a roll call vote of those in favor?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Thanks, Chris. And then Tim Street has a couple of items here. We have the end of the year, look at next year's price schedule.
All right, good afternoon, Park Commissioners. Tim Street, Director of Parks and Recreation. This first item I have tonight is going to be myself, but also some other staff are going to come up if there are questions, and at least one explanation for you all that was asked from last meeting when you reviewed the draft of this. This is the second time we have brought this up. This is now voting for approval for the price schedule to fix various prices and fees for the department in all of our different areas. On the staff reports, you can see a few highlighted things that were updated and changed from the last time you reviewed it. I won't read those off, but I will go ahead and ask, I don't know if Keto or Chris is going to come up. I know there were some questions last time about how we set some of those sports fees, and I know one of them is going to come up and speak to that.
Hello. I'm sorry that I was not here last time to answer the questions that you guys had. Yeah, I'll open it to you guys and just what were the questions that you guys wanted me to answer about it?
Well, I think one was just about setting certain fees. I mean, I was just looking around a little bit, different other communities this afternoon and seeing, you know, what do they charge for greens fees or what do they charge for the pool? And so how do you, like, if you are going to change the price, how do you come to a number to decide on?
Yeah, so the way that we did it, this is obviously my first time setting the price schedule, so maybe a little bit different than it's been done by other people in the past, but the first thing I did is I looked at what our numbers were, like a break-even number, a cost recovery percentage number, all of those kind of things, seeing how many people are coming to use our facility, when are they coming to use the facility, those kind of things. And then after that, kind of looking at other similar communities. With the pools, really, I did base most of it off of how IU Outdoor Pool charges their customers. And then with the ice arena, it was a little bit more, it was all the same process, but then I looked at Columbus, I looked at Perry Park, I looked at some private facilities up in Indy as well.
Yeah, so the new pool, what was the pool prices before? Was it $6?
It was $6 per admission, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I kind of hinted at this a little bit last time. I don't know. I feel like 8 is somewhat high, and that to me, and I love the IU outdoor pool too, but it seems, I don't see as many sort of necessarily families there, and I feel like Bryan Pool and Mills Pool is like a walking destination for families, and I know there are pass available, but I'm just thinking if someone has 3 kids and 2 adults going over there, that seems a bit high for an afternoon at the pool. But I also know the pools can't stay open terribly long, and so it's hard to get the cost recovery in there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's one of our big challenges, and then obviously making sure that we try to keep it as low cost as possible while costs are continuing to skyrocket on our end with making sure that we're able to pay our staff and have the appropriate amount of staff there at all times, and then also with just the cost of everything now between keeping the pools running and the pumps and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where that number came from.
And it says individual season pass includes swimming and water slide, so that's referring to the pass, but the general admission cost also includes the slides, because that's been back and forth over the years.
Yeah,
okay.
If you pay for admission to the pool, you get admission,
get the slides.
period, yeah.
Okay.
And, I know our cost recovery is different for Bryan Park Pool versus Mills. Does that not mean like that the fees would be different? I guess it's just the same.
I approached it, I know, I don't know in the
so.
past for sure. I approached it as trying to make the cost as even as possible between the two. Our cost recovery is lower for Mills Pool, but we also are trying to make sure that Bryan Pool can cover some of that cost for Mills as well. Because even though our cost recovery percentage is lower, it still costs quite a bit to keep it going and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I wanted to try to keep the costs as similar as possible between the two, and then that way, you know, if you buy a pool pass at one pool, you can use it for both pools and all of those kind of things.
I guess that sort of then just sort of like, then what is sort of our theory between why the cost recovery for Mills Pool and Bryan Park, like why it's different?
Okay. I think that's something we really need to examine. I think our cost recovery goals in general have been set for a while, and I don't know that this current iteration of the board has really re-examined or looked at that cost recovery. And so right now, in the process that we're starting, and I'll talk about this a little bit more with non-reverting budget in a little bit too, but as we're going down this road of really looking at our financial sustainability and cost recovery, we really want to move away from prescriptive cost recovery areas where we just say this area needs to recover this much, and we want to move more to categories. And so the categories of services, programs, offerings that we're giving to the residents of Bloomington and beyond that are most widely accessible would have the least amount of cost recovery, whereas the items that are more highly individualized, especially if we get to the very high end of that spectrum, rentals, concessions, things like that are the ones that are fully cost recovering. And so as part of what we need to look at with our sports facilities capital plan, we really need to look at how are we able to maintain these two pools from the 50s and 60s, and what is the true cost associated with that, not just in our non-reverting, but also in our general fund, and adding that together to get the true picture as we go forward. So there's more work to come on this for sure. A little bit of this at the end of the year here, we are kind of continuing patterns that have been set while we plan to re-examine some of the assumptions behind those patterns here in the new year.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it just strikes me that if our cost recovery at Mills is so much lower, I mean, I feel like that's because it's, I don't know, it's serving a different population, or
A little bit speculative from me here too, but I think part of that is that historically, I mean, the Mills pool usage has been so much lower. So were it not for a lower cost recovery goal at Mills Pool, there would have been much higher justification to close Mills Pool in a previous year, saying, look, you know, we're paying this much to maintain it, to keep it open, but only this many people are coming, and this is how much we're cost recovering here. You know, if we were trying to perform to a 75%, 80%, whatever that might be cost recovery, I think maybe different decisions would have been made about Mills Pool in the past. So a little speculative, but I think there's at least a thread in there probably of how that came to be.
Have we given any thought to having either a family pass or a weekly pass or something? I'm just looking at these, or after so many, the price per person, because as I understand this, if you have a family of 4 to go use the pool, it's $32, is that right? That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking of whether there's any way, you know, somebody has a week where they do a stay-home vacation and go to the pool every day.
Yeah.
That's, and so I'd wonder about that, whether or not we should think about week-long passes or I guess you've got the economy 20 punch pass. So a 20 punch pass, if I have 4 kids, I've used 4 of those punches.
Yeah.
So I guess that's an option for if you're there for a week or so. And then I guess, so I guess I'd just say, let's think about that, whether there's any way to do that. And then the other thing I would ask is, I know in past years we've had some funds available for the days when it's very hot outside. What's the status of that? I forget how that's funded and what goes on with that for next year. I know we ran out of it and we had.
Yeah, we didn't fund it. It was through
Parks Foundation?
That was through
No.
Economic and Sustainable Development
Yeah, it's
Department.
through different city departments.
So historically, yeah, there's a few things at play there. The Parks Foundation in the past has sponsored some free days at the pool, and they still did one of those last year. Keto is working on this as well, but the ESD department came to us very late in the season, well, late approaching the pool season, I should say, with this idea to do these Stay Cool free pool days last year, and that was through some climate funding that they had. So we are approaching them to find out, hey, what exactly do you have available this year, so we can plan much earlier. And I think importantly, we need to remember we have the pool fee waiver program as well, that is applicable to anyone who can prove that their kids are on free and reduced lunch at MCCSC, or if not that, that's the easy way to sort of qualify. There are some other steps they can take for that. So I think in January, we're planning to find out what ESD's intentions are, and also to re-examine our fee waiver program to see how those can work a little better in concert next year, instead of sort of these separate things like they were this year.
And to answer your other question, I don't actually have it printed out in front of me. I should have printed out the price schedule in front of me. But we also are planning on offering a household season pass this year as well. So I think that should be on there. Okay. And it's priced $86 lower than IU Outdoor Pool's household season pass.
I I mean, I think another option could be, and what I looked at in Columbus and Evansville, and I go to Columbia, Missouri a lot, which is kind of similar, slightly bigger, but they all tended to have lower prices. And also, I think we're doing 3 and above is you're paying one price, and it just seemed like they had a lot more youth pricing in other communities. You know, like up to age 12 is a certain price, or up to age 10.
I noticed that as well when I was looking through.
Yeah, because 3 and above, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, that's definitely something we can look into and try to. Is the process to resubmit something or?
I will suggest to the board that if you want to tonight approve the price schedule with an exception to this area, we could approve it that way. That way the rest of it could go into effect and we could come back to you, engage with you with some more things, even more on the fee waiver and EST programming, and come back on this specific topic if you want.
go ahead.
I didn't know if there was other questions beyond the pool, but I don't want us to change topics.
Oh, my only other question, and I haven't played golf in forever, but I mean, it looked like our greens fees were a little higher maybe than the area, but if people are paying them and we're having good attendance at the golf course, then, yeah.
Jason Simmons, golf facility manager at Cascades. Yeah, supply and demand, we're filling our tee sheet every day.
That's great.
So it's kind of a thing that we kind of need to do, raise our prices with there. We did recorded 38,000 rounds this year, which is 2,000 more than we did last year.
Wow.
So the players are there.
Yeah.
As long as Indiana University is in our backyard, we'll get student play as well. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as long as their
Yeah.
fees are what theirs are, more people are going to come to Cascades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions about the price schedule, other areas, or?
I wanted to mention one other thing. I think this is on the sheet as well, but the price schedule changes for the Frank Siller Ice Arena will not take effect until the next season.
Right.
So it'll be the 25-26 season, not January 1st.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's great to state for the public record as well.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Okay, so if we want to entertain, I'm happy to entertain a motion that approves the price schedule that, with an exception. Is that?
I think we'd make a motion, and I'll make the motion that we approve the price schedule except for the swimming pool, and that we would ask for further review of that, but we would approve all other pricing, and you can bring back the swimming pool with some other thoughts on some of the issues we've raised, but I'd move to approve all other price structures.
Okay. Do you want to second?
I can second that.
Okay. All right, and a roll call vote of those in favor?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay. All right, motion carried. And then Tim will also tell us about the addendum with Reed and Sons Construction for the final gateway change order.
Yes, the
Final,
last
final.
one, I promise, of many. Staff recommends approval of an addendum with Reed and Sons for the Bicentennial Gateway site improvements. This last amount covers a few last site changes that came up at the end of the project, some additional sod, some things like that we needed to really finish the project well, that weren't initially calculated. Additional 9,100 square feet of sod. I'm happy to say that, overall on this project, the initial budget we started out with was 1.25 million, and we finished at 1.275 million. Not exactly on budget. It was right there before this change order, but very, very close. And actually, with the way bond accounts sit and earn proceeds, we were able to fund this entirely off of the interest that accrued while we were working through the process on the gateway. So I hope, commissioners, you've had a chance to see it. It is lit up at night, welcoming people to Bloomington. Hopefully will serve as a symbol for our community. I know I particularly enjoy the opening in it that invites people in to come into town. And other than that, we are putting this project to bed.
All right, great. Any questions about this addendum?
This was for sod, is that right?
Correct.
And has the sod been put down?
Yes, it has.
Okay, thank you.
I would say that 2%
Yeah.
over is
Yeah.
probably pretty good. I don't know what the national average is on overages that come in out of construction budgets, but I would imagine it's much
And we did
higher.
have some sunk lost cost in the first design as well.
Sure.
That went away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the approved art piece is still coming?
Yes, and that is also funded separately through the bicentennial bond funds. There were some remaining surplus funds in that same fund that can be used for this purpose. So we have told the Bloomington Arts Commission they have a budget of $125,000 of those funds, and they are working to put their call out. I don't know if it's out yet. I remember seeing something about it, that they were working on it, but I don't know if they've made it public yet.
Oh, so there's not a selected piece yet?
There's not a selected piece yet. They will be managing that.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the addendum with Reed and Sons.
Second.
And a roll call vote of those in favor?
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, motion's carried. And then finally in C section, Tim's going to tell us about the Parks 2025 non-reverting budget.
Yes, I am. I've got a presentation coming up. Just going to wait just 1 second for that. All right, let's see if the clicker works. Oh, I think it does. Look at that. Takes its time coming up, though. Okay, tonight I'm here to ask the Park Board for approval of the 2025 Parks non-reverting budget. I know I personally have been on a year-long journey of learning many things about being the administrator of this department. The non-reverting department, the non-reverting fund being one of the more complex operational things that we have to wrap your head around. And I do want to note as we begin, I did put the wrong number in your staff report for approval. So you will see that in the presentation tonight, and on the actual budget spreadsheet that was given to you does have the correct expense number. But I want to note that I had the wrong number in the staff report. So the Parks Non-Reverting Fund is used as an enterprise fund to collect certain revenue from non-tax sources. Generally, our general fund primarily is funded by property taxes that come in through the levy, and our non-reverting is collected through more individual price methods. That's not 100% true, because in city code, when the non-reverting fund was established, it says that admission fees from golf courses, swimming pools, skating rinks, or similar facilities requiring major expenditures for management and maintenance shall not be deposited into this fund, but instead shall be deposited in the general fund. So what that ends up doing is we have a whole bunch of sports operations in particular that end up having split revenue, where their general admission goes into the general fund, the golf course general admission, the swimming pool general admission, that all lands in our general fund, and revenue from lessons and concessions and goods and rentals and events and things like that ends up in the non-reverting. So it does make it a little bit complicated to look at one business operation when these expenses are scattered across, something we're going to be working on. Our estimated, and since I went on a journey of learning about our non-reverting fund, I'm sharing that with you tonight a little bit too, but our estimated cash balance to start 2025 is about 1.3 million in our non-reverting fund. It's a comfortable number. It's enough to cover, a lot of expenses, rainy day expenses, things like that. It had dipped down quite a bit during COVID. I don't recall how low it got, but I know it dipped down quite a bit and has recovered in some intervening years. Here is what we are proposing right now for next year, and this is a deficit budget, and I'll make some comments on that. But revenue is 2.08 million, and expense is 2.29 million. We do have some one-time and new expenses factoring into that that I'll discuss. To compare to our 2024 approved expense, that ended up being 2.33 million after the Twin Lakes Rec Center turf replacement was included, which was part of our amended budget, 220,000. So it is a little bit lower than the budget last year, and there are some similar one-time expenses. The non-reverting budget includes currently $482,000 a year, and I'll show you the schedule on that in just a second. In debt service on the revenue bond from when the Twin Lakes Revenue, I wish it was Twin Lakes Revenue Center, Twin Lakes Rec Center was purchased. And then it also includes $97K in revenue from 349 South Walnut Street, which is the project school. Just to show you where we are at with our revenue bond amortization for the Twin Lakes Rec Center, we are here approaching 2025, approaching the last few years of this. There's $3.6 million in principal left to pay off. About $470,000 in interest will accrue during that time. So you can see our total 480 to 490, and then it starts to reduce over the next few years. So we are not terribly far away from being free of this revenue bond debt. Just to show you where our expenses go in non-reverting, no surprise because we have a lot of these facility operations fall under our sports division. The bulk of our non-reverting expenses in sports as well, about 75% of the budget. That makes sense given that we have Mills Pool, Frank Southern Ice Arena, Twin Lakes Rec Center, the golf course, some of those other things. There are a few new and one-time evolving needs coming up in this budget. Hopewell Commons is coming online, and we have been in discussions with the controller and the ESD department about how do we recapture from the upcoming development some of the cost of devoting this green space to be this neighborhood anchor. There have been a few different methods discussed. Currently in discussion is a redevelopment fee as part of development that would basically dedicate a portion of the redevelopment, the sale of the property, I should say, to coming back to maintaining this green space. This green space is an advantage to developers who want to come into that space and use it, and helps them qualify for some of the green space requirements that they would otherwise need to do on their lots. So the development hasn't happened yet, and we're still working that out. Meanwhile, the fence at Hopewell is getting ready to come down. We're getting ready to activate this space with temporary pickleball and anticipate activation of this space in 2025. So we anticipate starting to accrue some expenses for Hopewell. We've done our best to estimate that. This is not the full amount we anticipate forever in the future. In further discussions, it may be that Hopewell, at some point, a year down the line, 2 years down the line, becomes a purely public amenity, depending on how that redevelopment fee works out, and becomes something that we support with the general fund. Again, cost recovery for things in the general fund is generally zero. We're not looking to cost recover on things that are just being provided for the benefit of everyone. But because of that specific benefit here, I anticipate future revenues coming back into the non-reverting account to offset this. The golf course has a capital need to purchase a new sprayer. Twin Lakes has an HVAC compressor replacement project and an unsafe weight station that needs to be replaced. And we had originally anticipated maybe putting about $270,000 into this budget request to purchase a Zamboni, but have discovered that there are some lease and rental options instead that we have put in. So these, if you'll note, the rough amount of the deficit budget that we're proposing is basically made up by these items. I will say that we had a deficit budget for the non-reverting account this year as well. I don't want to continue that pattern. Obviously, this is why we're engaging in talks about financial sustainability, why we've got the workshop scheduled for April, why we're planning to do a lot of cost recovery and master plan work on all of these different things, so we can ensure that we're being sustainable well into the future. Right now, we have a comfortable cash balance. We have some one-time needs coming up that we are able to cover. And generally, I will say our staff has done a really great job at putting in revenue numbers that then are outperformed during the course of the year. That was certainly the case this year. The non-reverting has outperformed basically what we thought it would have been with the addition of the $220,000 Twin Lakes turf replacement. And those items help us generate revenue as well. So just to mention, I told you I was going to talk about our financial sustainability and master plan as well. A big focus on our deficit budgeting, both here and in the general fund. Trends we've generally been able to overcome in previous years, but as we've built out, as things need more and more attention and maintenance, it's a practice we really need to look at. I was mentioning this to Ellen earlier, but changing, identifying, and creating new cost recovery categories based on the category of what we're doing versus just where it happens to be. Looking at our capital facility needs, making sure we have clear eyes and understanding of what those needs are now and in the future. For example, Bryan Park Pool, it's one thing we can look at the annual operation of it and set cost recovery goals, but when we consider the massive injections of money that it will take from time to time to make repairs, things like that, that does change the picture. And sometimes those come from bond funding. That is a separate category of funding that we can use as well. And I'm in the process of reviewing all of our outstanding bonds out there with the controller, understanding when those expire. For example, we have, GO bonds for the Parks Department that were issued in 2016 that are on the books for property tax for another couple of years before those expire. That theoretically will open up a window in property tax rate to again do capital investment in parks. And also, I skipped over one point there that I'll come back to, a really detailed financial analysis of our general fund and non-reverting and how these items have been split historically into each one of these funds, and looking at, as revenue has come in, as revenue has changed or increased, have we kept the proportion of cost between non-reverting and general fund the same? Because of that split in Title II municipal code, we have to put, certain revenues, we have to split our revenues. I think we need to take a closer look at performance based on both budgets and make sure we're also balancing our expenses proportionally based on the portion that is general fund and non-reverting. So that is a bit of the learning that has been going on. Certainly for me, it's taken me a while to start to wrap my head around it. We have some things we need to work on. We have some old facilities, but genuinely, I'm excited. I think we have great opportunity as well to work on these things, approve a 2025 budget, and then move into next year and make really big strides on these programs and efforts.
Thanks, Tim. I don't know if you know this. Is that an odd arrangement to have that split like you were describing with the certain fees going into, like you've got the pool, as you were saying, but like admission fee goes here and lesson fee goes here? Or?
I do not know.
Okay.
That is something I've been thinking about lately.
Because it seems quirky.
It does seem a little bit odd, and I don't know how old that piece of legislation is from when the non-reverting fund was created. I assume it's quite old. So it may be something that can be revisited. That would obviously take council intervention. It does make for quirky, is a good word for it, budgeting when we're splitting these things. But I think it also, I understand it in that when we're investing a lot in these capital facilities for the good of the community, it makes sense that there is a stake to the general fund and property tax levies to support them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Question on, and it may be in here, or I may see it and just don't recall, but do we know where we stand in our revenues and expenses for '24 on the same non-reverting?
Yes. So I think we're going to finish the year. We're always projecting right down to the end. Kim, I've got to remember the latest one that we did. Well, that's before we reimbursed the truck. We have a couple expenses in our non-reverting that are shifting right now. I think we'll finish the year about $100K in the red in our non-reverting.
Okay. And so next year we're predicting 200,000 in the red, is that right?
And to be fair, we predicted that this year. We actually
So
should
we've
have
done
been,
better.
we should have
We've
been
done
220,000 in the red this year. But we generally are able to outperform some of these goals.
So just to make sure I understand where we work, so I think you put up a slide that said we have 1.2 million cash in hand.
I'm anticipating about 1.3 at the end of the year. So at the beginning of this year, it was about 1.4.
Okay, so in theory, if we do our budget as it is, then at the end of next year, it'll be 1.1.
Correct.
Okay.
Still a comfortable margin for us to operate. You know, that's 50% of our non-reverting budget, basically. But obviously not a trend we want to continue.
And do you know the last time that we were in the black on our non-reverting funds? Because I want to say that I think during COVID, weren't we under $1 million in cash reserves?
Yes, but I know coming out of COVID, we did have some years in the black too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, okay. All right, that's my questions, thank you.
Kim is saying she thinks this is the first year we're actually going to finish in the red for a little while, apart from maybe a COVID year itself, because of that turf, and now we've got some other one-time things coming up. I will mention, I forgot to say this too, of the general fund budget that we had approved, all of our 400 capital expenses that we had in the general fund budget were moved to a capital bond. The city has moved to a short-term capital bond to address capital needs, and those have now been freed up from our general fund budget. So the items that I had put asterisks on here are items that I am actively looking at to see if, okay, we freed that capital money up in our general fund budget, now could we replace this, you know, into the general fund, knowing that we had already authorized that amount in our general fund, and that both of those, Frank Southern and the golf course, have general fund revenues to justify an expense in the general fund as well. I don't have that answer yet, though.
And I guess there's the other thing I guess I would ask, and I think we just dealt with it, but sometimes I have a hard time getting my head around it. The revenue aspect, I mean, there's two ways to deal with the budget: decrease expenses or increase revenue. And most of our revenues coming from those fees we just approved, and is
Correct.
really where that's coming from. So to increase that revenue, we need to increase fees. So there's two ways to attack a budget deficit, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is it, I mean, I kind of looked at the attachment in the packet. Can you just pull out maybe pretty easily, like what are those, like what the biggest lines are of deficit? Like where are we seeing, I mean, I can go line by line. It's just, I didn't know if there was any you had in particular that you knew about that are just sort of those pain points, I guess, where we're.
I think you're going to find that they generally line up with these items on the screen is where we're feeling some of that. And that generally those pain points are coming in the sports division where we have this split. It's quite honestly, it's a little bit simpler in our ops and rec divisions in that what's in non-reverting is what's in non-reverting. So it's easier to put something in there that is, hey, we make sure the revenue is more than the expense. Budgeting 101, right? It's harder to do in the non-reverting because of that budget split, because so much of that revenue is missing in the general fund. That's where I'm saying I really want to take some time next year and look at how that split has happened and what is the proportion of expense we're assigning each way. We've already approved our general fund budget for next year, so the opportunity to change that is limited. So that's with the comprehensive approach over winter that I really want to spend on that. But yeah, generally, let's see. Yeah, Bryan Park Pool, Mills, Bryan Park Pool, Mills, if you combine the pools, they're under, Frank Southern actually is under a little bit, again, because some of that revenue is in the general fund. Golf Services is under. However, golf performs very well in the general fund, and you heard Jason say that their rounds were up 2,000 this year. The Pro Shop, let's see, Twin Lakes Rec Center, that is underwater because that we are still paying that revenue bond.
Sure.
So what ends up happening
Yeah.
is some of these other funds, and including the revenue that we make from the South Walnut property, help offset that revenue bond that is being paid out for a few more years.
And can you go back to, I was just the Hopewell thing. So when do we anticipate we would see that redevelopment fee come back in?
Good question. I'm working on that now.
Okay.
We've been having talks with the controller and economic and sustainability development department. They have basically just put out their new request for, I forget if it's offerings or proposals on Hopewell East.
Okay.
I think they're at the first step. Is it offerings first? Or I forget.
Yeah.
And so as they see the developer interest in that and talk about the redevelopment fee, then we'll be getting more info over the next few months about what may be potentially coming back from that. Ultimately, I can't guarantee anything right now. You know, thankfully, our expense for just next year for Hopewell is not that much. And we may need to make the case that, hey, that if this isn't happening, this needs to become a general fund expense because
Right.
this park is truly an open access common space
Yeah.
for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was going to be my question. Is like, are we just going to be expected to carry that debt? Yeah. Until, I don't know. When's that
I
gonna
feel
be
comfortable
developed?
with a one-year approach on that, knowing, hey, the expectation is we're working through this solution, but if for some reason that doesn't come to fruition this year, then we need to change the approach on that.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments for Tim? No? Okay. Ellen, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, move to approve the 2025 proposed non-reverting fund budget request. And the total expense budget, it'll be $2,292,883.
Second?
All right, and a roll call vote of those in favor?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, motion is carried. Thank you, Tim. And let's see, Rebecca, you're back.
I'm back. Starting in with me. I
Okay.
slid one more in for your guys' review. Do you have C-15?
We,
Oh, is that Centerstone?
oh.
No. It's for a temporary trail closure from Duke Energy. Submitted an application.
Okay, sorry, go right ahead.
Again, Rebecca Swift, Operations and Development Division Director. I'm here to recommend or seek approval of this temporary trail closure permit. And I had to stay consistent with the application. They are considering it the B line, even though predominantly it is the B-Link trail, although it does spill over a little bit for the B line. And because that is such a widely used multi-use trail, it does trigger the trail closure policy to seek Park Board approval. But just for clarifications, this is just a partial closure, so half of the width of the trail will still be accessible during this trail closure, and they are estimating starting this January until the end of March, so around a 3-month. And this is to replace at least 3 of their utility poles, as well as to improve some of the overhead lines as well on 7 additional poles.
All
Happy to
right.
answer any questions.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the temporary trail closure along the Beeline Trail for Duke Energy.
Second?
And a roll call vote of those in favor?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Thank you, Rebecca. And we have no reports this evening in Section D, so then we go to E, public comment. If we have anyone here who would like to approach the podium, we can also, Kim will check to see if we have anyone online.
If anyone online would like to make a comment, please use your raised hand icon. We do have someone.
Okay.
Anne, would you unmute yourself, please?
Yes. So I just want to say, I missed about the first through C7 or so.
Hang on 1 second, we need to work on your volume.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and try again.
Yeah, okay. We have.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed into the meeting until we were about at C8, 7 or 8, I don't remember exactly. And that's just one thing. And the other thing is I could not hear Israel. Maybe he needed to get his mic closer, and that's just all I would like to say.
Okay, all right, thank you for your comments.
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, and then we will go back over to Tim for any final announcements.
I'm going to make Kim pull the presentation back up again. Sorry, Kim. First of all, this was a massive agenda and a lot to go through, and I just want to thank all the staff that did a lot of work on this. End of year is always a lot. Thanks to our legal counsel for putting up with us, sending a lot of things through. I want to recognize Darren Eads and Amy Lionbeck in particular. They did a lot of work over the last month or so, kind of retooling how we combine and do some of these service agreements so we're not creating all these different separate service agreements, and I really appreciate their work on that. Also, it's the end of the year. Do I still have the clicker? Can we go to the next slide, Kim? I don't know what I did with it. One more. Also, it's the end of the year, and just wanted to share it's been a really fantastic year, and thank you, board, for your support. We put these images together for our staff retreat the other day that we had last Thursday, just recognizing the many things that Parks does in our community, how photogenic some of those things are. As mentioned, we completed the Gateway. We had a really wonderful eclipse, a season of wonderful community events. Dedicated the new Bryan Park Playground, which was an ARPA project. We were able to do many other really great accessibility-oriented ARPA projects, some of which you approved tonight, thanks to these last ARPA funds that we're allocating, and that will continue into 2025. So major improvements for our community on that. We've had great community events. Splash and Glow is up there from that night. That was a really fun night. I think we've made some really awesome improvements to our pools and ice arena and the way those are operating. Becky was sharing with me earlier today some end of season farmers market numbers. I think we had just a really amazing farmers market season, and thank you to the staff and the Farmers Market Advisory Council that contribute to that. Basically, our numbers for engagement and participation and vendors for farmers market were up across the board in every single category. And it's just such a great community gathering point. Next slide. Oh, it's not working on me. Would you click for me? Hopewell Commons. We are getting ready in the spring officially to dedicate our newest park. We've already obviously talked about this evening, but here are a few pictures of Hopewell Commons. And as Milestone Contractors completes this project, you know, it is officially a city engineering project, so the engineering department is the lead department, but we have worked very closely with them, and as they work on punching this project and completing this, you'll see in the coming weeks that the fences come down. Public access will continue to increase there. We're going to start our security patrols there. It's beautiful at night if you have a chance to go over there. The roads in there aren't open yet, but if you happen to be at Kroger and you want to walk over, take a look at the space. Our rec division's busy thinking about ways to program and activate this in the new year. It's amazing. It's a really cool space, and I hope we can look back in 5 or 6 years and see the neighborhood that has built up around this. and what a cool new common space this has become for our city. So we're very lucky to have that. And last announcements I have are December 14th. We got one more holiday event out there, Skate with Santa at Frank Southern Center at 1:30. And our next Board of Park Commissioners meeting will be in the new year. We are moving to our Thursday 5 p.m. schedule. So Thursday, 5 p.m. on January 23rd. Thank you again, Board, for all you have done for us this year. We greatly appreciate you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. All right, and with that, I'll adjourn the December meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners.